Hey, are you interested in learning some psychic skill building? Well, stay tuned to this video because I have my friend and expert Christina Courtney on, who's a certified psychic, and she is going to teach us how to develop our psychic skills. All right. Well, I am so excited to have my friend Christina back. We have been doing a 4-part series on developing like your psychic intuition. So if you haven't checked out the videos prior to this one, we did a video last week and the week before on how she became psychic. What do you do if you want to become a professional psychic? And also how to develop the clairs, which are your psychic senses. And so I'm just going to give a brief intro for Christina, and then we'll get right into it. So Christina Courtney is an alignment coach, psychic, intuitive artist, and speaker who helps people who are ready for transformation evolve past their own limiting beliefs and align with their authentic selves so that they can live the blissful life they were meant to live. Christina has a very broad spiritual background, including but not limited to being trained in nearly a dozen forms of energy healing, including working and traveling for the Reconnections, and a Karuna Reiki master. She's a certified psychic, healer, medium, and uses EFT regularly with her clients. She offers workshops, retreats, and one-on-one sessions locally in California, as well as internationally. For more information, you can visit ChristinaBCourtney.com, and I'll leave that link in the description below. Hi, Christina. So excited to have you back. Okay, so this week we talked about the clairs, like what the 5 clairs, the senses are first for development and how you would like become a professional psychic. So in this video, I wanted to cover like, so what would people like, what are some practices or like trainings or whatever, how would people develop their skills? Like now they may know like what their clair is, like clairsentient or clairaudient, like, so how do they actually develop those things?
Yeah. So the number one thing I would say is practice. Just like with anything, like if you wanted to be a soccer player, you would practice regularly to get better and better at it. So I think practice is key. And the second most important thing I think is your attitude around it and having an attitude of like fun and being relaxed about it, not being too judgmental on yourself, like allowing yourself to make mistakes. The more fun you have with it and the more freedom you give yourself to not feel pressured to do it right or all of those types of things, the easier it's going to be for you to develop it. Because if you think of being in the flow with source is all love. Source is all joy. That's where you're getting your messages from. So the more that you can be on that frequency of love and joy and just having fun with it, not only the more messages are you going to get and the easier it is going to be to develop those skills, but also it's going to make everything flow faster. You're going to be more connected and you're going to get more messages. It's just going to be so much easier for you when you're having fun with it and enjoying the process.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, awesome. I so agree. I know like things just click, I think when you're developing like your intuitive abilities and your psychic abilities, I think like there's a term being in the flow. So all of a sudden things flow and you know what to do next and you know what to do next. And so the big thing is like, don't stress about it. Like there is no right way to do it. It's a learning experience and just make it fun.
Yeah. And
And
also not to feel bad when you get it wrong. Like you need to get it wrong in order to know when you're wrong or right. Like it's almost like you're fine tuning a frequency and you need to know if you're just a hair off and it's like, you're getting, if you'd imagine like the old school radios, right? If you were just a hair off, it would be staticky. And you need to know that. You need to hear the static in order to tune it back to hearing that music clearly or hearing that voice clearly or getting the messages or the images clearly. So I think a lot of people judge themselves and are like, oh, I have to do this 100% right, or I have to, they beat themselves up when they misinterpret a message or say something wrong. And I think we need to embrace that. I think we really need to shift the way that we look at it and say like, awesome, okay, I did not get that one. and then the more we notice when we didn't get it, we know like, oh, I was off that frequency. And we need to know what it feels like to be off in order to know what it feels like to be on.
totally. So So in like a practical sense, right? 'Cause so when you're getting like messages from spirit and you have them coming through, so they could be coming in like in the different clairs. And if you don't know what the clairs are, there's a video that we did last week. I'll link it in the description below. Check that out. But like, so the attitude is the more relaxed you get, the more fun you get. And that's with everything, like, because you know, something, you get messages all day long. But so in a, like, I guess more like practical sense, like what would that look like for somebody? Like what are some like activities that they would do to help them develop?
Sure. I love face-to-face classes and face-to-face practice. So if you, you know, I feel like the most important thing is you get into alignment and you make the decision that I'm ready to take this step. And when you make that decision and you ask for guidance and support and for the resources to become available, they're given to you. So you may feel some guidance to go on Meetup. You know, you may feel like you want to Google a psychic center nearby and join a class. I love in-person practice. If you don't have anything locally, you can gather some friends too, and you can start, you know, practice doing card readings for each other, practicing with a pendulum, watching YouTube videos, enrolling in a course. So looking for resources where you can regularly practice, and then making that commitment to actually regularly practice. The more often you're doing it, the more practice time you're getting in, and the quicker you'll develop those gifts. So you can also develop, you can even do a morning practice for yourself where you're pulling a card every morning if you were interested in oracle cards or something like that.
I've got a video about that too. Check it out on my channel. But I so agree with you. It's something I changed my life doing that, really.
Yeah. And then I think if you pulled a card every morning and you said like, okay, what do I need to know for today? And then you pull the card and then you see how the day goes through and like if what you received was helpful, or if it wasn't, that also helps you with fine-tuning that frequency. So I think practicing on yourself, practicing on other people is awesome. The easiest way for beginners to practice intuitive gifts is actually with strangers, because what happens is strangers, we don't have all this other internal dialogue information that's going to come into the mix that your brain is going to have to compete with. It's almost like there's your internal voice, your ego, your conditioned mind, your own thoughts or perceptions, and then there's the voice of intuition. So it's like there's these two voices all the time. And with strangers, you don't have a lot of this. You may have a little bit based on what they're wearing and what your culture says about what they're wearing, or those types of things, or based on their race or their gender or something like that. But a majority of the time with strangers, you're not going to know about their family history or whatnot. So you're not going to be as biased. You're not going to bring anything to the table that needs to be separated. Whereas if yourself, those are the hardest. That's the hardest person to read, is yourself, because you know so much about yourself. You have a vested interest in what the cards say or don't say. You want them to read a certain way.
Yeah.
So it's going to be harder.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I mean, I like reading for myself. I don't know. But it can be hard. Like you can't, you know, sometimes I'm asked, like my husband actually likes to use the cards with me now. And so I'll ask him like, what do you think this means? Cause you know, sometimes you're close to it. But it's so funny you say that. I find like it actually is harder to read for people I know, because I already have my preconceived idea of what I think the cards mean, like with my mind, you know, versus like tuning intuitively. And so it's so funny because it's like, you know, if you read for people, you know, you would think like, oh, that's cheating because you already know. But no, it's like I find my readings are more accurate, like if the less that I know people, because then I really have to tune into my clairs and how I feel, and what I'm picking up on, because I have nothing else to go off of.
Absolutely.
And so what is like, is there like a practice that you do in developing, you know, like your abilities? Just curious.
When I was first starting out, it was definitely face-to-face practice and using cards. Those were my favorite tools. So there's so many different things that you could do. I mean, there's pendulums, runes, oracle cards, tarot cards, tuning rods. You could read tea leaves or numbers. Like there's so many different ways that you could practice. So I think finding something that resonates with you and then doing it regularly and just really repetitively trying it. Try it with your friends, your family, any willing participants, and just practice and be lighthearted about it. And then I think another really important part of developing intuitively is paying attention to your own psychic dictionary. So this is something that I like to teach my clients, is that basically you're learning the language of spirit. So you're receiving these messages and spirit's going to communicate with you in a way that you understand. So for example, for me, I have certain traumas in my life that left an impression on me and created a certain way that I react to situations because of that negative experience that I went through. When I have a client that comes to me with a similar trauma, spirit will often give me an image of my own trauma, right? To let me know, oh, this person experiences something like that too. So in the beginning, it may be confusing, like, why am I getting an image of myself as a 4-year-old going through X, Y, and Z, right? But the more you practice, the more you'll start to develop that relationship and that psychic dictionary with spirit that will help you be able to give really accurate, profound readings. And that's developed over time too. And if you also, so they'll oftentimes give you things or images that you're kind of like interpreting or learning what meaning you're supposed to assign to those different things, or what meaning you're already assigning to it. And then you can also develop with spirit a system where you're saying, okay, well, every time I see, say if you're doing a mediumship reading and you're connecting to a deceased person's loved ones, you can make the agreement with spirit that if it's on the dad side of the family, you'll see it on the right side of the person. If you're clairvoyant, you'll like see the image over there. Or if it's on the mother side of the family, you'll see it on the left-hand side, because the left hand of the body is usually, energy flows left to right. So it's usually feminine energy is on the left, masculine on the right. Yeah. So you can say like, hey, spirit, I'd like to do it that way. Please, whenever you're showing me this, show them on that side or show them on that side based on this. So you can kind of like create an agreement with spirit as that will help you along. And they're so willing to do that with you. They really want to set you up for success, but it does create that, it does require you investing in that process with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And I think that was something that frustrated me as I was like developing my abilities, because I'm like, isn't there more to it? But it really is actually just communicating with spirit. It's very personal. And but I think like with spirit, you know, we have free will. So, you know, you have to be giving the permission for them to come and intervene as well, because it's up to you. Like, it's your decision, you know, like as far as how much information you want to start receiving and how you want to receive it. Yeah. And yeah, and so I think like from what I'm hearing, it's just like making the intention and asking spirit, like, okay, like can you come to me through this way? Can you show me the different signs and symbols this way? And also awareness. Like I find with my practice, like awareness was the biggest thing. So that's where like I think my journal came in really helpful. Like the way that I started knowing that I was receiving like information from spirit, information about what was coming up in my life, the future, was just because I started journaling. And then I would read back on my journal and realize like, oh, like, you know, this is how I was being guided. And like, there's more to, I guess, the worlds than just our physical worlds.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so, yeah, everything that you just mentioned, and then the practice element. And you can also incorporate other things to help kind of like support that too. So some of those things could be, you know, meditating before you're ready to communicate, because you want to be really open and have cleared out whatever else is going on in your brain. And so that you're ready to receive that without any of your own personal judgments or opinions about things. So meditating can be really helpful. You could also, I know some people that will take like a light shower where they'll just visualize like beautiful white or gold light just washing over them and releasing them of anything else that's going on with them. Other people will create kind of like a agreement with spirit. Like whenever I put this particular essential oil like frankincense on my third eye, it means that I'm opening up and I'm ready to communicate. I have one of my dear friends who's an incredible intuitive. She lights a candle before she ever sets the intention to communicate. So you're kind of like creating a ritual or a routine can also really help you connect. And yeah, it just really supports the whole system because you're just strengthening that relationship by consistently doing the same things. It just sets you up for success. And so, yeah, you can also, like you said, the journaling is great. That's also another way that you can practice getting intuitive information is just asking questions and then just do automatic writing.
I love it because it's so simple. And so, like basically bottom line, it's very simple, right? It's like, you're just noticing and it's communication. It actually is a relationship that you have with your higher self, with the universe and spirit. And so basically it's kind of like the same as relationship advice. You guys have to start talking. You have to start talking to spirit and just asking for what you want in that relationship. And the great thing is spirit is very supportive. So versus like a human relationship where you have like static of like, well, I want this and I want this. Spirit is like this protective, loving, I guess, parent, that loves you unconditionally and is really like, okay, whatever you want, I'm here to support you, but also gives tough lessons as well. So sometimes we get messages from spirit that we don't want. I have a friend who's a medium who like she was so mad because her life was falling apart and spirit was like, it's okay. This is great. This is like where you need to be. And she's like, stop talking to me. I don't want to hear it. So, but the actual like voice coming through is always very loving and very reassuring.
Yeah, I like to think of it like you're learning a new language, right? Like you're learning the different clairs, or like you're learning this new language, you're developing these skills and you have to practice. Just like I remember when I was in high school, I took Spanish as my elective language. And I remember the first day going into Spanish class, I knew nothing, like nothing. And then, the more that you take the class, the more you learn some of the words, like you broaden your vocabulary, day by day by practicing it regularly. And then I had the experience once I had taken Spanish for a couple of years. I actually went to Mexico where people speak Spanish. And I also had a trip where I went to Spain where people speak Spanish as well. But the Spanish that they speak in both of those countries is very different. So it's almost like you're learning the different dialect. And in the beginning, when I first went into a Spanish class, I would have had no idea between the different dialect of Mexico and Spain. But the more I practiced it, if I were to hear somebody speak Spanish who's from Mexico now, I would pick that up. Or if I were to hear somebody who spoke from Spain, I would pick that up, right? And it's kind of like the different voices in your head. You have this voice of spirit that's always talking, always giving you loving, compassionate guidance and support. Then you have the voice of your ego, your conditioned mind, that's giving you some other thoughts, right?
Yeah, some not so nice thoughts. And that's interesting too. So I always knew like I had psychic intuition, but I always thought like, okay, what I have is it, like I'm not super psychic or anything. But now I know that you can develop your psychic senses. So like you said, like you learn the basics of Spanish and then you're able to also understand different dialects. And the same thing is like, you can start with like, you just get kind of a premonition for yourself or maybe a family member, or you have like some information coming through, and then you can actually like take courses to develop like as a medium, or develop different divination practices like tarot, or you mentioned runes. And so you build on that and you can actually get more psychic. I was like, that's really exciting.
Yeah. And it's kind of like riding a bike, you know, like it's this skill that you can go back to and you can learn. But, you know, just because I learned how to ride a bike when I was a kid and now I could relearn that skill because I haven't ridden a bike in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't be ready to like do you know, a triathlon with a bike, right? But if I were to practice it regularly, I could get to that point. But then if I did a triathlon and then I didn't ride a bike for a couple more years, I would have to recondition myself. So I have this experience when I was first learning intuitive development. Man, I was like 100% in, practicing all the time with everybody, was getting such profound intuitive information that just transformed my life. And then I took this mediumship intensive course. It was like a week long, every day, all day, mediumship, mediumship, mediumship. I'm talking to, you know, people who have crossed over like 24/7, it felt like. And I was so on. I would get such accurate messages. And then I transformed my practice and I wasn't doing mediumship regularly. And so it's almost like that gift kind of went to the back burner. And I became a little bit rusty, if you will. Sometimes it would still come through, but it wasn't my focus. And so it's almost like that muscle kind of like atrophied a little bit. And it's something that I could bring back at any time if I wanted to put that focus on it. And I do bring it back now. But I just want to reassure people that just because you were gifted at, or you felt like you were gifted at one time and then you felt like you weren't, and then it comes back, and it's just this muscle. And the more we practice this muscle, the more we're aware of it and developing it, the more experiences we're going to get utilizing that muscle. And then when we don't use it, we're not going to get as many. And that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But I just want to reassure people that if you felt like you were intuitive and it went away, you can always get it back.
Definitely. And it's not as clear cut as like you take this step or that step. It's really like you just start the conversation with spirit and say like, I want to develop, please guide me. And then like take some time, like have some time for reflection to be able to hear that, because our days can be so hectic and busy, but like have time during your day where you're just like, you know, even taking walks, I get so much info, like just walking, you know, or in the bathtub or whatever, take some time to relax and quiet yourself. And so I just want to put it out there too, if anybody has any questions on how, you know, more questions on how to practice and develop, please leave them below, because I'll make sure to get you the answer, and you know, maybe Christina will hop on here and help us with this as well. But it's actually super simple. You just start talking to spirit, and if you're watching this, you already have a sense that you're getting the information. So it's just keeping that communication and then noticing what's happening and gaining more trust in what you're noticing, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And so thanks so much, Christina. Like, I feel like, is there anything else you want to share about how to practice before?
You know, I love what you said about when you're in the bathtub or right before you're falling asleep. I think those times when our mind is clear and we create that open space, we're going to get more messages. So if you're really hectic, have this, you know, go, go, go lifestyle, and you're like, why isn't spirit talking to me? It's probably because you're not creating the space for spirit to talk to you and allowing that time. So whether it's a routine that you do every day, or just setting those appointments in your calendar, even if it's only 20 minutes of free time, or even myself when I go driving, for some reason while I'm driving, that's where I get a lot of my
just like, anytime it's just like an activity, kind of your body is occupied, I guess your mind gets occupied, and then spirit comes in. But you said like, spirit's not going to come to the Uber if you're too busy. Like if you're too busy to do it and make time for it, they're going to go, okay, cool. You know, like it's up to you how much you want to develop this or not. So awesome. So Christina, let people know how they can work with you and connect with you if they want to like develop more and gain more of your wisdom.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, I love working with people, helping them grow spiritually in this department and all kinds of other departments. So if you are interested in having that additional support, please do feel free to reach out. Valentine's going to leave my link down below. And have this quick cheat sheet that's really helpful on discernment. So it's helping you to identify the different dialects, if you will, of those two different voices so that you can continue to develop those skills. So we'll also leave a link for that if you'd like to download it, and that'll put you on my email list as well. So you'll hear from me in the future. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, definitely get on Christina's email list. She's excellent. I've had the pleasure of having her teach me some things and be in workshops, and it was incredible. So definitely connect with her. Thanks so much, Christina, for being here. And so next week, we are going to talk about a really important topic. So once you develop these psychic abilities and things, and you're thinking about working with people, you really have to start considering your responsibilities as a healer, as an intuitive. And so we're going to be talking about some really key things you need to know in a business sense. If you do start to work with people and use your skills professionally, so like ethics, responsibility, how to navigate difficult situations with clients or whoever you're working with. So make sure to stay tuned next week for that. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified when that comes out. Thank you so much, Christina, for being here, and I'll see you next week.